Hi, and thanks for watching. In today's episode of What Was In It, we're going to take a look at Keyboard Magazine, issue September 1985. We have Jan Hammer on the front cover here, but there's also a nice feature about Greg Phillinganes. We have equipment reviews, and of course, lots of cool old ads for gear. So let's start it up and see what we've got. And it should be no surprise that the first couple of pages are bought by Korg. And what do we have here? We have the SDD 2000 sampling delay to the left. I've covered that before, but it's great nonetheless. A great little delay and sampler. And we have the Korg Poly 800, of course. 8 voices, professional sounds, the ad says. And they continue with the most sought-after professional features. Well, it was nice, no doubt about that. So we have the content of this issue. This sort of layout never actually did change much in Keyboard Magazine. They always had this sort of setup for showing us the info about what was in this issue. And then we come to the letters to the editor, and one letter here really caught my eye because in the previous issue there was some sort of talk about random patch generators for synthesizers, and this reader he writes in that he has such a device for his Juno 6, but the Juno 6 doesn't have any patch storage, so he just uses a computer to generate the different patches, and he just writes down the parameters and then program his Juno 6 based on that. And he's loving it because it opens up possibilities to find new sounds, as he says. And he's right. A random patch generator can be a good thing. Ah yes, we have the Lexicon PCM60 reverb. And back then this had no menu diving. There are just the knobs and buttons, and that's it to choose your reverb programs. Now a great classic. And we have a guest editorial by Mark Pettigrew, who's questioning the media's neutrality towards Christian music. He feels that Christian music has been stigmatized unfairly. And yes, look at that. Be a track star. And here we have 3 products from Sequential. We have the Max, we have the Tom, and we have the Multitrack. Look at that. Nice. I mean, come on, what's not to like about ads like these? Love it. Keyboard 10th anniversary reader poll. Best keyboardist, newcomer, etc., etc. Okay, so here we have Jan Hammer endorsing Sundown amplifiers, which I think he used exclusively in this period, but also a nice little inside track on DeBarge, Rhythm of the Night. Anyone remembers that? I sure do. I play it once in a while, actually. Who's Holding Donna Now is probably my favorite song on that album. And Eldra DeBarge just goes through the gear used and the people that contributed on the album. And there's lots of top dogs here. Jeff Lorber, David Foster, Robbie Buchanan, Steve Porcaro, Michael Omartian, and Marcus Ryle. And Jay Graydon, of course, is a key figure here. And what gear? Yamaha DX7s, Sequential Prophet 5, Oberheim OB8 for brass, etc. Nice, nice. A little on-stage piece about the music behind the Baryshnikov live gigs back then, the Ballet Dancer. Emulator 2 there, I see. And we have the Casio ad for the CZ101, of course, at $499 back then. We engineered the synthesizer so you don't have to be an engineer to play it. That's a punchline. Check out this. But perhaps the most remarkable thing about the CZ101 is that not only is it easy to play, it's easy to pay for. Well, you don't see ads like that today. Cool. Improvising with sequencers, the electric keyboard side of acoustic guitarist Ralph Towner. And not the missing link, but the mixing link. TOA. That's another little punchline right there. Career updates, more news, and we have Hybrid Arts to the right there. Hybrid Arts were pretty big back in the mid 80s. I used some of their software. And we have In Review of Records. You can see straight off Espionage by ESP. Very, very nice. I remember that. I was never much into Chick Corea myself, but I did like that Jerry Goldsmith Runaway soundtrack. The movie, not so much, Tom Selleck, but it's a very interesting soundtrack. And of course, Heaven 17, How Men Are. That's a great album. I love everything Heaven 17 did, actually. Great, great band. Manis. I can't seem to remember that ad from the other keyboard magazines I went through. Manis, did anyone go there? Please say so. And look at that outfit, Bo Tomlin. Haha, if I had an outfit like that now, I'd sure wear it in a video. But sadly, I don't. But that's a cool ad set in retrospect. Some sheet music. Enhancing a melody with grace notes and rhythms. Always interesting articles, these ones, I think. But hard to translate in a video like this. And the Music Expo 85. Everything's coming up software, and this was really the breakthrough year for computer software, music computer software. I can remember this myself, going to the music shops, checking out gear. More and more software and computers were starting to come into those stores. It was a very exciting time, actually. Tech was just breaking out from all corners. So let's see what we have here. The SP12, the Fairlight, the Yamaha TX7. So let's see what we can read here about the different manufacturers. We have the Fairlight, we saw that. Kurzweil, Roland. They showed the TR727 Rhythm Composer. And they released the MKS7, the Super Quartet. That's the mixed module of a Juno 106 and 707 sounds in one box. Oberheim was the big question. Did they go out of business? They didn't, and they showed up with the Matrix 6. And it says here that the 6 is a slightly altered version of their well-known expander. Well, there might be some more differences than just slightly, maybe. Korg showed off their DW8000, and Casio had their CZ5000. And what was originally rumored to be a EMU Drumulator 2 appeared officially as the SP12. And the Lin 9000 at $4,995. That was not pocket money back then. And Yamaha released their Rev 7 reverb. And look at that. That's the Mirage, of course. And Sonic ads, always so cool. And here we have it, the main feature of this issue and this video as well in many ways. Jan Hammer scores big with Miami Vice is the title here. You can see the Fairlight, the DX7, the Memory Moog, and the Jupiter 8. And in retrospect, it's very nice to see how he approaches the different episodes in this article. And since Miami Vice had just been aired for a short while when this issue came out, it's very nice to read about how he makes the different cues and songs now, almost 35 years later. And remember that Jan Hammer was also a very accomplished drummer, and he played on many records as a drummer, so he knew drums. And they go through how he landed the gig after meeting Michael Mann, etc. And he was adamant of using the Fairlight and Page R for sequencing. So they ask him, do you score as you're watching for the first time? No, not usually. I watch it twice, the cues I get sent, and then I leave for a couple of days to process what I've seen. And then I start to write, just making sketches with a drum machine, a Lin perhaps. And he tries to make some emotions into this, and everything is pretty much improvised, impromptu. just to get a feel of it. So he's working very much based on instinct. I like that. And of course, this issue comes with the sound page, the little vinyl with two Jan Hammer tracks on it, the Airport Swap and the Golden Triangle, now classics from Miami Vice. Now, I don't know if the versions on this soundpage vinyl release here is the same as on the official release, because I don't want to rip this out to lessen the value of this magazine. But let's check out this article. The first selection is from the episode called No Exit. It features Fairlight drums, Memory Moog lead guitar, and some cheating. Hammer played a real Stratocaster for the rhythm guitar part. And that's nice. The lead is a Memory Moog played through a Rockman and my old MXR flanger, as he says. He uses that a lot. He says it many times in this article. And he really likes the Rockman. I like the Rockman as well. I just have a copy of it. He uses a lot of gates to keep the noise in check, he says. The Airport Swap, ambient drums from the Lexicon 200. The Golden Triangle, that's a Page R sequencer from Fairlight running the whole thing. Look at that Akai AX80 ad. Great ad. Not so great synth, in my opinion. Back to the Hammer article. He doesn't like the Simmons drums, it says. I love Simmons sounds, but it's gotten out of hand. He is much more taken to the Lindrum and Fairlight drums, and he does all his own sampling, a lot of them with ambience on it. And he's using the DX7 mostly as a master keyboard, but he loves the Moog pitch bender more, but he's learned to use the wheel pitch bender and mod wheel as Yamaha used to do it. And look at that Lin 9000 ad there to the right. Nice. Stock Aitken Wattman used a Lin 9000 for all their sequencing duties, and much drums too, although they used sampling a lot as well. He does speak more about the Rockman, which he uses not only as an amp but also as an effect send. He just sends tracks in the mixer to the Rockman because he likes the way it manipulates the sound. And yeah, that Lin again. And what more? It's a big article. So why isn't Miami Vice being broadcast in stereo when it's recorded in stereo? Well, he doesn't have the exact answer to that, but I think that maybe later it was broadcasted in stereo. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Roland adds the JX8P, of course, and the Roland music software to the right. I really like the looks of the JX8P, but I don't like the versions with the patch name written on those white buttons. I like the more cleaner look of the other version. And Hammer has a favorite Roland synth as well, and I think you all know what that synth is. It's the Jupiter 8, of course. And he says, I mean, the Super Jupiter is great, but what happened to that random arpeggiator? Where is it? I mean, forget it. I'm not going to touch another Jupiter until they put that random arpeggiator back. That's one of the most amazing tools of the last decade. So he really likes that random arpeggiator of the Jupiter 8. And he's meeting it up to other synths, other keyboards. And he's really upset about Roland taking that away from the Super Jupiter, it seems. I can, of course, confirm that there are no arpeggiators in the Super Jupiter MKS80 modules. And the article closes off with him saying that he usually does one episode in about 4 days, sometimes less if he is pushed. So he is creating a lot of master cues for each show. And finally, they ask him if the Jojo Moroder soundtrack for Scarface had any influence on him, and he doesn't deny that. And of course, the looks of Scarface and the Scarface movie itself did have an influence on how the makers of Miami Vice made that show, although it grew to something of its own, of course, over time. Very, very nice article, and well worth buying this issue if you see it on eBay or anywhere else to read this in person, all the details. Ah yes, a very nice ad for the Yamaha CX5M music computer. I really like that keyboard stand. I must get a Yamaha CX-5M in here soon. I'd really like to try that out. Here's some people I don't know much about. The Split 8, again from Sequential. They just show up here with this little ad for the Split 8. Very cool. Books, synthesizer, and computers. Is that Nick Rhodes? I think it is. And Ultimate keyboard stands. You have Kawaii MIDI pianos. And another great article here about Greg Phillinganes, a really ace keyboard player. He's played on so many classic albums. Michael Jackson, of course, both in the studio and live. He played on Beat It. And I won't go into much detail about this article here now after that long Jan Hammer featurette. But Greg Phillinganes appears in another issue of Keyboard Magazine I want to go through a little bit later about the live touring with Michael Jackson. And I'll get back to that later. There's a lot of cool pics and stuff like that in that article. But he's still going strong. I love the way he plays, and I always watch videos about him if I can, if I have the time. I love to watch him play. Big black and white Kurzweil ad. Kurzweil always had those long lines of text in their ads, often peppered with technical specifications. To be taken with a grain of salt, perhaps, I don't know. Ray Kurzweil did a lot of bizarre things in periods of running Kurzweil. Those smaller features near the end of Keyboard Magazine issues, called On Synthesizers, The Piano Technician, Computers for Keyboardists, etc., Modifications and Maintenance, to the right there. I was really into electronics back then, much more than now, and I often try to build some of these things in these sections of Keyboard Magazine. Very cool stuff. You don't see that anymore. The Casio CZ 5000, of course, doubles up the voices from the 101 and CZ 1000. So what are the conclusions? Let's see. Did I miss it? No, there it is. Conclusions. We remain very impressed by the sound of the CZ voices. And yeah, it comes out fairly well. And here we have the Moog song producer for the Commodore 64. It's a sequencer. Does any of you watching have any experience in using this? Please say so in the comment section. I'd love to know more about this. I've never seen it either before or after this keyboard issue. So I'd love to know more about it. The music software by Dr. T was, I think they were very big in the US. Not so much here. I tried to use it a couple of times. I never took to it really. The Link Keytar, the first human-engineered MIDI strap-on keyboard. I really don't think you'll see a line like that in a music tech magazine today. Don't miss the 1985 Professional Keyboard Products Show, Goodman Music. Is that a coincidence that they have both that inlay and that ad next to each other? I don't think so. Keyboard giveaway and another book, The Makings of a Revolution, The Art of Electronic Music. The Alesis XT Reverb. Nice ad. Never used it. You have the Korg DW8000 there, brand new. And the SQD1 sequencer. I have both of those, actually. Keyboard Classifieds. The issue's advertisers. Oh, and look at that from Thoroughbred Music. Roland products direct to your door. And a nice Matrix 6 Oberheim ad there. A very cool synthesizer, actually. Cool, cool. And at the end, we have a Yamaha with a DX7 and a KX5. We've seen that before. And that pretty much sums it up. Keyboard Magazine, issue September 1985. What was in it? Thank you very much for watching. I'm Espen Kraft and I am the 80s. So until we meet again, have a good one. Cheers.